is the Writer's Block, episode 22, live from the internet, a week after it airs. A week after it was recorded. Yeah, never mind. It's me, Todd. Yeah, Andy Kamara with us, as always. He's the guy with the hat as his title on it. So, yeah, let's jump right into it.
I just want to hop in and say it's another After Dark episode.
Yeah, it's funny how that keeps happening. Not planned at all. It's just a matter of circumstance somehow. But yeah. So today let's jump into research because, of course, you can't write a book without research. So, how much time on average do you spend on research, Mr. Kamara?
Short answer, not enough. Long answer, probably still not enough. But I have actually stepped up my research game a little bit and I think I mentioned it before, have mapped out there. I found a 2010 census map of the Adirondack Park and all the towns that live in it, or the towns that are in the Adirondack Park. Let there be light. What are you doing over there?
Don't pay attention to me. Just keep talking.
Okay. Anyway, and then I then see what what town has like similar residents that I mapped out on my town, and then after that I go in and see the geography of it, to see the layout of the town, to see if I can, like, quote unquote, steal it to describe what the town is, because I've had a hard time really mapping out the town a little bit more than I thought. I think you and I were talking off camera one time, and then we realized how many holes my town story background really had. And I was like, okay, there's a lot more research into this than just me sitting down and writing, which usually I do that with short stories and it's okay. But with a project like this, that's definitely much more needed. There's a lot more research. I'm probably going to have to do more research on whole small town police, law enforcement sort of thing too.
Yeah.
And to make sure I'm not, butchering the law, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like, I think a lot of times we kind of assume things based off of where we grew up at, So, like, I grew up in I would say, like a medium sized city. So, I've always known for, like, let's say if I wanted to write a crime novel, I've always known that there's police stations kind of all over, scattered throughout the city, multiple police officers, there's sheriff's department, with the county and all that stuff, and they're all over the place. But when it comes to, so like basically, if I were to write a crime novel in a small town, I'd probably carry over those experiences. But when in fact a small town may only have one or two offices, it might just be a sheriff's office, not even an actual PD.
Yeah.
So
So
that,
in my hometown, the police station was actually inside City Hall.
and it's probably the only one in the whole town, right?
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
they
so
had, and then they had full, and then you had the Fulton County Sheriff, which that was attached to the jail.
yeah,
There was small jail, and then the big, statewide jail or whatever. Not statewide jail, but there was obviously the bigger jail was attached to the sheriff's office.
yeah.
So there were
That's
two.
different.
Then we had a historical courthouse too. So there was a courthouse, but that's cool.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that's not connected to the DMV. No, it's next to the DMV, but it's not connected to the DMV.
The leg bone's connected to the foot bone. But anyways, there's actually different jurisdictions when it comes to like county sheriffs and then also municipal police departments. Like in some cases, the sheriff actually has the lead jurisdiction even in the city. I think it's specifically with traffic accidents. But
Because you see around here, I've never noticed this in my hometown, but I see a lot more Pinellas County Sheriff cars or SUVs around here than I do actual St. Pete police vehicles.
I see a well, might just be where I live, but I see a pretty healthy mix.
I just
Um,
see the sheriffs, but I mean, I live on the beach, so I
yeah, I
guess
mean,
that's more
also like
manpower.
so one interesting thing too is sometimes like cities come to take over the entire county. Like for example, it's one I know I happen to remember is Denver. The city of Denver is also the county of Denver. So there isn't like a rural area where there is no like municipality or like an unincorporated area. You know, it's the entire county is also the city, and so you end up having merged utilities and civil services and stuff like that, or public services. So I think that's something that I feel like Pinellas County is kind of slowly becoming. Is where I can't think of many areas in Pinellas County where there isn't some kind of town. You know, whether it's St. Pete in the southern portion or Clearwater and Dunedin or something, whatever. It's
Harbor, yeah, there's all whole.
yeah, there's no like unincorporated area, and so it's all municipal. So the entire sheriff department is basically like because like outside of those municipalities, the sheriff department does have, I think, more jurisdiction and more whatever. But so that's another kind of like weird thing.
Well, then I have to take into account like, is it big enough for a an actual funded firehouse, or does it have to be a volunteer firehouse? Because yeah, at my hometown, we had an actual fire department, but then you got the outskirts of like town of Johnstown, and then you had like Sir William Johnson Volunteer Fire Company, and then you had a couple more surrounding too. I can't remember what they
Well,
were
the real
called off the
question
top.
is, does any of it matter to your story? That's the first question I got to ask.
Yeah.
Is it relevant to the story if the fire department's funded or if it's volunteer based? You
Well, I
know,
think
or like does the
I
fire
don't
department
think
even show up in the story?
Well, I think it might. I don't. I see. I got to do some more outlining
And so like, those are
because
things where like some research is important for sure, you know, but you don't want to also get bogged down researching things that are more I don't want to say irrelevant, but just not as uh, important, I guess. You know, like so for example, I have this. I made this map for my, you know, Fairly Human book 3 coming out sometime this year, hopefully in July or June, hopefully. Anyways, so you know, I can't really see it, but it's a map. I mean, you can see it, so you probably know it's a map. But here, I didn't like I just care mostly about the location between all the towns and all the cities, and you know the borders between the states and you know different countries because you know might not be able to see it, but the very northern part of this is actually Canada. Shout out to you know Mr. Andy Canada over here, professor of Canadian studies.
Canadian studies.
But you know, so like for example, like Andy, you know where that town is right there?
Winnipeg. I do know where that is.
Yeah. So that town, it does play kind of a background role in the book.
Fun
But-
fact: it's bigger than a town. It's a city.
Well, let me write that down real quick somewhere. But anyways, it's plays like a background role. You know, there's one faction that's based out of it, but I don't really go into detail about what exactly the state of the city is in, yada yada. I mean, there's one town called Devil's Lake that that's where I've kind of done most of the work in so far, and I haven't done much research at all, other than to see that it's near a lake, hence the name. And I did go on Google Maps and do the little, you drop a little guy on, and you can kind of do the street view thing. I did that for like a minute just to kind of get an idea of what the surroundings are like. You look confused. Google Maps,
I've never done the. I don't know what that is.
street view.
I know what Google Maps is, but I don't know the street.
Yeah. So if you go on Google Maps, you type in an address or a city,
Yeah.
it'll show you the city on the map. And at the very bottom part, there's like a little compass or something like that, and then a little golden dude. If you drag a golden dude and you drop him on one of the roads, you go to the road, and then you kind of have a sort of 3D perspective.
Huh.
In fact, some of those pictures go back to 2008, so you can actually see the change in cities over time. Fascinating. But anyways, what was I saying? So I use that to do like a brief kind of look around for the town to have a general idea of, if there's like one main road, and that's all I care about, like main road. And so certain buildings might not really, whatever they are now, they might not be in 5 years into an apocalypse. So I can kind of just make up stuff. And I think that's another thing you could do actually with your town. You can embellish a lot. Like it could just be a small town with nobody in it, but let's just say in your town it does have a paid fire department. Let's say it does have a pretty large police department. Large for a small town, sure, but there's also the question of how many people are even going to realize that or call it into question.
I think
because there probably are small towns that have larger departments or better paid departments based upon the state that they're in. Maybe just the state itself allocates more funds to those places, as opposed to other states where maybe they don't allocate as many funds to those smaller counties. These are all kind of things that, kind of goes back into how relevant is, I guess.
Keep talking. Yeah. I actually unplugged myself.
I'll try. I'm running out of breath. So research is important.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Right,
but I was gonna say that like the small town my grandparents go to in the Adirondacks in the summer, they have, I think, 1 or 2 police cars. Like it's a small building, but it's basically more monitored by the sheriff's department, the county sheriff's department.
Mm.
And it's interesting because I think the police department itself is just a small building connected to, I think an art, like an art. I can't think of it. It's not a museum, but like where you can go buy art, like a paint. I don't.
An art store.
It's art store. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
That was a big word out there.
That was a big word, big oof. But so I don't want to go obviously I don't want to have it that small because I think I made my police force 8 people.
Yeah,
I think, but it can all change because it's all drafted and.
Yeah, we know you could do something that would be kind of interesting. Maybe have the police force be 6 people, but 2 of those people. Oh no, 8 people, 6 of them are with the PD, 2 of them are sheriff office liaisons.
Well, actually, I think I did have one of the deputies' dads be in the state police, which was headquarters in the next town over. And they do a lot of liaison works. And then you add in in New York, it's called the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation. So it's kind of like the woods police. So I created something like that too. And there are 2 main guys who are incorporated two guys that are part of that force. It's not actually called the DEC, but they pop up a lot. They have the police actually have to use their boat a lot because they don't have their own boat because of the funding and stuff.
Call it like the Department of Woodland and Forestry Preservation.
I called it something like that. Yeah, something
official.
Something
like a subsect of there's a bunch of places or a bunch of agencies under the EPA that I think one of them like Fish and Marine and Wildlife, other one's something else I can't think of. But
I don't know if anybody finds this as interesting or not, but if you ever heard of Northwoods Law, it takes place in New Hampshire and Maine, and they follow around conservation officers, and that's basically what it is. So if you ever see that on the Discovery Channel, no, Animal Planet. If anybody has cable still and scrolls through channels, Animal Planet has that every once in a while.
If you still have cable and the one channel you're watching is Animal Planet,
It's not the one channel, but if it's on, I will pick it. I will watch it sometimes. I don't watch the Animal Planet all the time.
Okay, I'm just saying there's a lot of, if you're looking for some wildlife activity, there's a lot on YouTube. Actually,
Yes.
the very first video of YouTube was the guy at a zoo.
Really?
Yeah, just it's one of the most viewed videos on YouTube. But you look it up. One of the co-founders was like, "Hello, I'm at a zoo, and this is a video for YouTube." And then that's it. I mean, I don't know exactly what he said. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, fun fact.
Hmm.
I would say though, just before I forget it, because my memory is not what it used to be. If when it comes, what was I going to say? When it comes to research, I think it should serve the overall story more than anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay true to everything. Like you want to, like you start off with that, that's your foundation, then you craft the story from there. But if you have to change some of that to fit the story, make it better, then that's perfectly fine. Know what I mean?
I I know what you mean. But, so that's like the most research I've done. I don't know if I need to actually do more. I don't know what other aspects I need to do research on. Actually, I have to. It's the whole world building, and then probably the law and small town police. Those are the two main ones. I don't know if I have to do any more. Um, Probably forensic stuff too, a little bit, like who they would send it off to, because obviously they're not going to have a big fancy lab in a town of 7,700 people. I want
Well,
to
that's
say
actually where you might be wrong. What if your small town is the
no, no.
what?
Because I have a picture in my head, and having a big honking tech lab thing in the middle of it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't have to be that super high tech. What I was gonna say was maybe that region of the state. That's the what do they call it? There's every county has a county seat or whatever, and the county seat's usually in the largest. Or it's in one of the usually the largest city. It actually isn't for Pinellas County. Fun fact, but Pinellas County's seat is in Clearwater, smaller population. But let's say in your county, the biggest town is Camara Town, and in that town they have small little lab. Maybe it's outdated. Maybe the lab was built in the 1990s when the town was a little bit bigger, but it's still the county seat, and so all the stuff goes there. Maybe the process is kind of dated. Maybe it doesn't work that well.
See, I guess the one thing I'm trying to stay true to is there are a lot of regulations within the Adirondack Park to keep it like they have a Forever Wild campaign. So it's very hard to like do a lot of these things without the APA. I think there's a whole political twist to it that I can't explain off the top of my head. Like you'd have to do research, but
it's about like
they're trying to conserve. Yeah, they're trying to
the
conserve
park as a natural habitat.
Yeah, so like if you can't, there's a lot of all this. I think 80% of it's state owned. I want to say
makes sense. Yeah.
So it like if you go into state owned land and try to cut a tree down, you're gonna get caught.
Yeah, I mean it's like how it is for most national parks. I'm pretty
sure.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to keep true to that. So I'm also trying
town in the middle of a national park. It's theoretically outside of that park.
No, it's inside. It's inside the Adirondack Park. Did I never explain that?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought I said that way on the beginning. Yeah, no, it is. I know originally I was going to have some of it in, some of it out, but that would make a whole different dynamic. That would be more confusing than enjoyable to read.
And so,
but it's
this Adirondack Park, it's a national park, right?
I'm pretty sure.
And
I gotta Google it now.
And there are towns inside of it.
Yeah. I don't know if they consider it a national park or not.
I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know that much about national parks. I just assume that inside of a national park is just uninhabited land, kind of like when I think of like the Everglades, for example, I just imagine it's this giant open land. There might be towns in there. I don't know. I don't know for
No,
sure.
I know you can fit Yellowstone, Yosemite, and what's another one?
Texas.
No, you can fit. There's 2.6 million acres, and you can fit.
Right,
Well,
so
New
it's
York
pretty big.
owns 2.6 million acres, while the remaining 3.4 million acres are devoted to forestry, agriculture, and open space recreation. And it's not a national park.
Okay.
Fun fact.
So
Oh,
those.
here we go. It can fit Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, and Glacier in the Great Smoky National Park inside.
So some of the park is left aside for uninhabitable preservation lands for habitat uh, continuity and such. But I don't like, so there definitely would be limitations on expansion of some of these towns, but I don't know if that would necessarily stop it from having a facility to, you know, like a lab.
Yeah. Uh, so that's another thing too. So that's like what I'm trying to keep true to that. So that's why a lab would, and I was also trying to make it like prolong suspense that you have to send out all this stuff and have to wait
Yeah, you could do
too.
that. Yeah.
Because I've read that. Um, or like in the Robert B. Parker books that I mentioned a bunch. Um, they have to send all of like their findings out to the state lab in Boston or whatever. And I don't know why I kind of find that interesting because it kind of prolongs the suspense, like I said before.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, what other research other than mapping do you usually do, or is that the biggest one?
Mapping's a generally small part of it. The research tends to be on, well, like, I guess it depends on how you, I don't know if, like, sometimes I kind of conflate research with uh, story development or, the building of background stories, I guess. Like, um, some of the research I've done is like when trying to build uh, one of the major players in this upcoming book I'm working on. They're kind of sort of based off of a couple different real life organizations that have absolutely no connection to this book or anything going on in this book, but their structures were kind of interesting. It's like one of them is actually just I referenced it in this book, and I can't remember the story off the top of my head, but I think it was something about a. Oh, I don't remember. It's unfortunate. Basically, it was like a sort of like army of citizens, civilians. I think it was like late 1800s, uh, early 1900s, maybe. Um, some kind of like worker movement or something like that. I don't remember the specifics, but the only reason I even know about them is because they actually passed through the town that I just happened to pick to do this, thing on. So I'll do research on the towns sometimes just to see how they're connected to each other. And what are the other things? So there's another, I got a book here for it somewhere. Back in, after World War One, there was, actually, fun fact, in Ukraine, there was this, it was basically like a anarchic state, anarchy meaning a void of government. There was no real government. There were small pockets of isolated communities, I guess, for a very, very short time. This was like after the Russian Revolution, but before the Soviet Union really was completely put together. And there was this army that protected these individual settlements from, well, not from the Bolsheviks of the Soviet Union, but also from other Western armies trying to take land and such. It was a time of major chaos. If you know anything about World War One, oof, major chaos. But this army, I thought it was really interesting. The army was its only purpose was, if I'm remembering it correctly, I mean, there could have been other motives. I'm not super educated on it, but the way that I remember it is that this army just kind of protected these small communities. And so I kind of use that as one of the major forces in this next book that helps to maintain the sovereignty, I guess you could say, of these small communities from this band of bandits and raiders and highwaymen, I call them. I think highwaymen, I think it's an English term for like bandits. I think that's what I think the term comes from, like who's the guy that he steals from the rich and he gives to the poor?
Robin Hood,
Robin Hood. Yeah, I think he
right?
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think
Okay.
either they called him and his group highwaymen, or maybe it was somebody, I don't remember the terms connected to them somehow, but
I thought it was Robin Hood and his merry men.
well, yeah, I mean that's the title of it. But
Okay.
I think other terms for their highwaymen is just
No, I got it. Yeah.
I did
It's
research
also
before. I don't remember.
it's also a show on
It's a movie
the
on
Discovery
Netflix.
Channel.
What, highwaymen?
It's also, yeah, it's about truckers.
Sounds fascinating.
I've never seen it. I just have seen commercials.
Oh, yeah, I stopped watching commercials years ago. There actually is a good movie on Netflix called Highwaymen. I don't know if it's called Highwaymen, so I'm just going to hold that thought.
I know it sounds familiar. Is that with
Kevin
I'm
Costner
yeah,
and somebody else.
guy who was in that HBO show, crime show with Matthew McConaughey? They were detective partners. I'm drawing a blank. I had to
Me
watch
too.
it in college. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know that they're going after Bonnie and Clyde, though, if I remember correctly.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking
Right?
of.
Was it? What? They were going on a
Yeah.
murdering spree.
Yeah. That's what they were.
Yeah,
That's who they were going after. Yeah.
I think the name of the movie was Highwaymen. Not a bad
I'm
flick.
pretty sure you're right. I've wanted to watch it, but have yet to get around to it. I don't really watch a lot of movies.
You should watch it. I mean, it's got a law enforcement element to it. The main Kevin Costner, he's a former, I want to say U.S. Marshal or something like that. Which honestly, that's something you should look into. Is writing a story on like the edge of the Western frontier of the late 1800s, from the perspective of a U.S. Marshal trying to bring law to a lawless land. Does that not sound like a fascinating story idea? You could literally make up your own town.
I could make up my own town.
Maybe. Oh God, I'm thinking of something right now. Think of it like this: you got this. Maybe you have two towns that are both, you're close to each other, but not that close. They're still like they're far enough away where travel is just kind of just not great. But then there's this rail line coming through, and each town is trying to get that train to have their railroad come by them and not the other one, because obviously whichever town doesn't get the railroad is probably going to die off, because back then railroads are the connected you to everything, connected you to the coasts where all the capital was and population. So you could end up having this sort of like intercity war as they're trying to get the Union Pacific to lay tracks down their main street. Feel free to write all this stuff down.
Okay, I'm actually writing it down in my mind.
Yeah. Oh,
as we speak. I was thinking, and then obviously you go through and do little small like Google searches, but nothing like major that you have to do before writing a story. Like I wrote a scene before I realized I needed to do more research, and it involved like that boat I had mentioned before. And I wanted to make sure it was like the same caliber of like what the actual police, like the sheriff's office used in the Adirondacks, like that I see. So I had to look up what the boat was called. So it was just like small, minor detail stuff.
Yeah. One thing I wonder is if you need to give that detail of a description, like you could just say like
it was just a
boat.
mention. I think I just said 14-foot Boston whaler.
I mean, I'll say I don't know that much about boats, so I'm just like it's a big boat, it's a police boat, but I don't I don't
because you
know
can't really. I don't.
how to. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
at,
trying to be.
yeah.
I guess I'm trying to be more descriptive to try to help people understand what like it is
I mean, it makes
in a
sense.
sense. You know,
Although I will say, if I heard Boston Whaler, I'd be really confused. I'd be like, Boston Whaler. Is that a dish? You know? But that stems from my own ignorance on boat makes and models.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's ignorance. It's just the lack of just.
I mean, what's the definition of ignorance? Isn't that lack of knowledge?
I guess, but I feel like when you describe something as ignorant is in a negative connotation,
Yeah,
but you're not.
yeah, generally, yeah. I wonder if it's lack of is it lack of information or like a desired lack of
I
information?
was feel like it should be desired lack of
Yeah.
information.
I mean, I have
Because
zero
because
interest
if
in
I
boats, so I do. I guess I have a desired lack of information on uh, whalers of Boston and such. Yeah, it's my hot take on that.
like, but it's so that was an example that popped in my head. Um, and then I had to look up how much a cinder block weighs too.
10 pounds.
No.
Well, that changes everything.
But that was another thing that I had to figure out because yeah, well, I'm not going to spoil. No spoilers here. Well, actually, I don't know. Actually, it's out on my website, so it's not really a spoiler alert. It's what my antagonist uses to tie. Uh, he ties them around his victim's ankles and wrists, and one at
Sounds
the
kinky.
ankles, one at the one of the wrists, and then drops them on the side, like off the side of the boat into
Oh,
the lake when they're still kind of alive.
oof, getting wet. Oof. Anyways, uh, that sounds like quite a murder scene there. I mean, did she die, or is it left, or is it do they die? I forgot you said you didn't really give a. Could be a man or a woman. You didn't actually specify that.
Well, eventually, yes. I mean, she's not. It's a serial killer, so she's the third one. So you don't find the third one until a while. The first one washes up on the sea. They're on the beach though.
Interesting. With the cinder block?
No, it gets like the through. Okay, do I have to explain this?
Yeah. How does
Like
gravity work?
through time, like the skin in the water like loosens from the muscle or the bone and everything, and and then plus like the your body like fills up with gas too, and then it floats to the top. Fun fact.
Sounds
So
gassy.
when they found the first person, they're just their skin's like hanging off their muscle and bone and missing an eyeball because the fish got hungry and just
Hopefully, it
small
was the
stuff.
fish. Could have been, somebody going for a swim and they
Swimmers.
just took a nibble.
That could be it too. That'd be an interesting twist. We have a cannibal trying to hunt down the serial killer.
Yeah. But here's a fun fact. I've been every so often I do some research for my much larger dystopian novel. And since we're on the topic of cannibalism that you brought up, let me share some of one of my newest. What's that look for?
I'm interested in seeing how mentioning the word cannibalism has just opened up Pandora's box.
I don't know, you brought up the topic of cannibalism for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, so in this,
Technically, you did first.
oh, I don't remember that. Anyways, so the sort of background of this story is that by this point, there is a food shortage, basically. Population growing endlessly. The means to support that population is, with food is declining. And so a number of countries begin to grow more open to the idea of recycling human tissue, human, body
Mhm.
parts. So the idea becomes like, okay, so we're going to start, we're going to basically provide a sort of low cost food alternative that is just, you know, human flesh, meats. And so, like initially, people are kind of like freaked out by it, but over time, it just kind of becomes this accepted norm that like certain people, when they die, like like they just become food, and so this ends up becoming like a socially accepted thing over time. And generally, it's going to be more impoverished people that are stuck eating this stuff, but you know, becomes a sort of soylent green, if you will. Yeah, it could be a good book when this thing's done. People eating people, and they know about it, but it's cheap food, and they don't have much of a choice. It's a dystopia for a reason. Let me just throw that out there.
It reminds me of a show. Was it a show or a movie where they had to resort to eating each other,
Might have been a book.
or a book?
Is it the one with the kids on an island or something? I
Oh,
don't
no, not
know.
that. Not King of the Flies.
Yeah,
No, I read
okay.
that book.
I didn't.
I did. I had to read. You didn't have to read that book in high school?
No, a lot of books
Huh.
didn't have to read this in high school either.
That's weird.
I'm
We had
reading
to
it
read
now.
that. We read that. We read Animal Farm in like eighth grade.
George Orwell is actually his pen name.
I didn't know that.
I didn't until like yesterday, I think, maybe 2 days ago.
I did know that. Yep. Yeah.
Eric Blair.
Oh, they threw it in there anyway. I have a pen name, and then I'm gonna throw my real name in the
Oh, well,
back.
I mean, this particular copy, I think, this is probably the 84th edition or something. Apparently,
Probably.
also like he one last final dumb random fact. He liked to spell 1984 out with letters, not just the numbers. So, NINETEEN 84. So, yeah.
Wonder he had to do a lot of research.
Well,
Actually, I don't know.
well, he was lucky. So, here's I'm gonna get real for a minute. Okay, George Orwell, Eric Blair, lived until 1950. So he was able to see. He was actually 47. He was pretty young. But he lived to see the rise of. This book it's got a lot of totalitarian and groupthink, masses. A lot of that stuff going on, and a lot of that I think came from being able to watch the rise of Nazi Germany and the rise of Stalinism and Soviet Union. So you take the worst of those two regimes, put them together, and then that's kind of I think what he did. I think that's where a lot of like his research was just reading the news every day. You know, like 1934. Hitler has his Night of Long Knives, cleans house to secure his power. 19 was it 38 or 37? Stalin's Great Purchase, clearing the rank of old Bolsheviks to secure power. Like it just follow these timeline of events throughout time, and you could craft a hell of a story, which is what he did. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't really speak on the whole thing, but a lot of parallels. I mean, we could be seeing. We might have the opportunity right now with everything going on in Europe.
Yeah. I wonder how much research Gary Paulson had to do. I don't think we've mentioned Hatchet in a long time.
We haven't. We haven't. You know what I still have next to my desk here? It's a hatchet.
But he probably had to do some.
Well, he probably crashed his plane.
I mean, you have to. You have to be dedicated. If you're going to be an author, a best-selling author, you have to be dedicated enough to crash your own plane.
I would think so. I would hope so. Hey, I don't know. I don't know much about Gary Paulson. I just know that he wrote a lot of books. Then you died.
I mean, I guess the same could be said. Who wrote Who wrote Into the Wild?
Oh, the guy that wrote that's still alive.
Well, I know that, but he. Do you think he went and lived in the woods for a while to understand? Kind of like,
Nope.
no, he
I don't
just
think
made it up.
the guy that wrote Into the Wild.
Yeah,
As far
I'm
as
not
I know,
saying.
you just asked people that were a part of Christopher McCandless's life. You know, people that he met along his
Oh,
way
that's
to
right.
Mexico. And
Sorry, that's right. I forgot that it was based off of real. Sorry, I've never read that book.
good book. I highly
I
recommend
read
it.
that book.
It's it's right here somewhere. I don't know where it's at, to be honest. Good book though.
What's
Old
another
book.
one?
Halfway decent movie.
Um,
I actually need to go to Alaska sometime because they moved the bus to the University of Alaska in Anchorage. They have some kind of exhibit there.
really?
Mhm.
Huh.
Too many people were dying on the pilgrimage to see the bus. So,
Nice.
because, I mean, people were like, oh, wow, this guy died seeing a bus. Maybe I could do that too. And
Let's go. Let's go see a bus. Oh
I
wait.
mean, so a lot of people were dying out there. A lot more people were having to be rescued from getting stuck out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alaskan wilderness is unforgiving.
Final
Same with
frontier.
same with the Canadian wilderness too.
Have you seen there's a map of Canada and it's got a line that goes through like the southern portion of it. And it's like, I think it's something like 50% of the Canadian population lives below that line. And that's just like Quebec City and Montreal and Toronto. I think they're all underneath that line. Like cities that basically are just across the border with the US.
Talking about the Arctic Circle.
Huh?
What are you talking about?
Never
The
mind.
line that.
We're on completely different.
What are you
uh,
talking about?
It's talking about how the majority of the Canadian population is on its southern border with the
Oh,
US.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know where you got the ring of fire from. And okay.
This is what happens when we record after dark. Things get crazy.
Yeah, I get crazy. We're talking about Canada. And there's nothing crazier than that. Well,
Man, you're still holding that thing.
anybody needs
gotta
an
get that-
axe, let me know.
you
I
gotta-
really don't like this thing anymore.
You gotta get it sharpened first.
For
It could
what?
be a
So I
good.
can
it could be a
actually
good-
cut myself next time?
It could be a good defense mechanism.
Could be, but
I want to know how it got dull. Like, what are you going chopping down semi medium-sized twigs?
I scratched my head with it. Oh, that hurt. No, actually, it came like this. Like I bought it, and I think somebody had tested it out a lot before I got to use it. I might have tried cutting wood with it once, just for craps and giggles, but I never would have done enough with it to make it this dull. Like it's pretty bad.
Hmm.
But
I wonder if they come.
I don't
Like-
think so.
No,
Uh,
I wonder if they already like. Are they sharpened when they buy them, or are they dull and then you have to get them sharpened?
it's a good question. It might be kind of dangerous to have a bunch of sharpened blades in the retail environment that are completely accessible.
I never thought of that until now.
Yeah,
Like
I
when you
mean,
buy hockey skates, the blades are dull. Like you got to go get them sharpened.
it does something. All right, you want an axe by any chance? Maybe you can bring this up to the Enron Deer axe.
I have enough axes and chainsaws. I don't need any more.
Well, it's
How-
considered a birthday present. That's a
How-
couple months
how-
away, right?
How am I gonna get it to New York? I'm gonna have to drive it.
Put it in the back of the truck, or
I could put it in the back of my truck.
tape it to the bottom of your shoe. They'll never notice.
I could put it in my truck. If you really want to give it to me, I will take it from you and leave it in my truck.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is probably gonna end up getting thrown away.
Okay,
within the
I'll
next
take it.
5 to 6 months.
All right, we can put it in my truck.
All right. Well, I'll wrap it up with a nice little bow.
Okay.
And maybe on the next episode, you can be the one
Open
to pull
it.
the axe out.
I can do that.
So it's a noble honor to be able to pull an axe out on live television
Oh.
like this.
God.
Well,
We've gone off the rails per usual. It's after dark. We get most of our topic done, and then someone mentions something and we just snowball and just all a bunch
That's how
of
it
other
tends to go.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it be that way.
Yeah. Makes it more fun. It makes it more interesting for our viewers to stay this long and watch us just snowball into crazy talk.
Basically. Yeah. Well, I guess we should probably start closing up shop then. At that point, so we can begin our 20-minute outro now. You know. Oh, check out our social media.
Check out our social media websites. How do you say your website again? I don't remember.
Andy
type in
S.
my name.
Kamara / xrp.wix.com/org. Or just Google my name and it's the 17th option.
It's below the wedding list.
I'm not getting married.
We're pretty spot on. That was good. That was a good outro for me.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta. You have anything new coming out?
By the time this drops, it could be. I'm in the process of working on a new short story, just trying to figure out how the ending is going to go. So, what is today? Maybe by
24th.
Yeah,
The day
today's
that World War III
24th.
started.
And then so this will drop March 4th. I might have something out by then. Just be on the lookout.
We got a Bomo out.
It's a
Be on the lookout.
I know, I got it. Thank you. It's off. It's no more time series. That's it. Finito. We're not going to have any more of that.
It's always the No More Irash time series. It's like I know it now as the Irash time series.
The Rash time series.
The hash slinging slasher.
Well, I've described it as the Irrational series for so long that when I changed it, it hasn't gone up to my 10% brain usage.
Call it the Irrational Time series.
Irrational Time.
Well, in a way, I mean, think that
could work.
What are dreams but some sort of weird irrational time fragment that may or may not have ever actually happened? It's like some Inception style stuff.
Oh, that's like
Inception. Yeah.
What do we call that?
1984.
No.
Optical illusion.
No.
Brain failures.
That's one of them. This is a brain failure. We've had a lot of those today. I've had a lot of those today. I haven't had enough coffee today.
Yeah.
I only have my one to-go cup full of coffee. And I was like, I could use 2 more of these things.
Coffee's good.
Yeah.
I like to eat it sometimes. But I do have a dystopian sort of story coming out tonight. Well, it should be out by the time you see this. And it's from the perspective of a recently inaugurated president. And it is not, I mean, I don't go into details of any kind of like political party or even what country it is. If you follow politics at all, you'll probably figure out not necessarily who it's about, because it's not really one person. It's a collection of people that I've kind of compressed into one, and then also like risen the level on it quite a bit. So it's, when you read it, you might pick up on things that are like, oh yeah, this sounds like something that somebody would have said over here, that somebody over there said, or something kind of like that. And then, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's very dark. Well, it's not dark in like some of the other stories I've read. It's more dark as in like it's not a pleasant world to want to be in. I feel like this particular world that I read about, which it's probably going to be most worlds that I read about for the indefinite future. Everything's going to be either a like dystopian or a post-apocalyptic kind of story. So, yeah.
After this one, I don't know what I'm going to write about. This one just came to me. If we were talking, like we were recording a different episode, and it's just like, oh, let's try this. Maybe I'll go back to second person. Maybe I'll stop writing for a while, short story wise, and just work on my novel. We'll see.
Fair enough.
I always say the same stuff, and it's still not. I was supposed to have my entire manuscript done in 4 days.
Man, it's not too late.
Oh, that's a
You get
lot of
those juices pumping, call out of work, don't sleep for a few days. They can,
just a lot of Adderall.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. In the like very near future, if I ever have that same kind of level of magical writing momentum, I think I wouldn't.
Stay up all night and call out of work.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like when you sacrifice that momentum and that drive and
Yeah.
that what you may have written, all for you know 8 hours paid. Which I mean, granted, you have to be in a somewhat of a privileged position, I suppose, to be able to make that call. But I would make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess that's that.
I need that kick. I mean, I started reading again, so maybe that'll kick the juice just flowing. Like I was at peak when I was reading like a book, maybe once a week and a half. I was writing a lot too. It's a little times were simple. They weren't simpler. They were just I don't know. They weren't simpler. I was gonna say times were simpler, but they weren't that simpler. They're about the same.
Yeah. Times
Just
change and
I just
times are different.
haven't had the boost to write.
It comes and it goes.
Yeah, like a Twinkie, like a Twinkie.
Like the seasons that we see throughout the year, they come and go. The leaves fall and they grow again. The rains come, the snow comes. It pours, and then it hails. Then autumn brings pumpkin spice.
Everybody's favorite.
Sometimes.
Ugh, God, I don't know how you guys drink that stuff. Just coffee and a little bit of half and half or milk. That's it. I don't need cream or any of that hoo-ha.
Ooh-ha. I don't partake in any of the craziness of these kids these days, running around with their boom boxes and their 8-track tapes, talking about all their hippie stuff, smoking the ganja, lighting up their doobies.
Oh God, we have gone off the rails yet again here at the Writer's Block after dark.
Yeah, if you're still watching, you have
We,
some
we,
major patience because I
we,
would
we,
not
we
be
gotta
watching
stop.
if I was.
We gotta stop recording after dark.
Yeah.
I think that's it. We gotta go back to our normal scheduled. No more fun on our scheduled date or scheduled week and time. We have to do it properly.
We'll see what we can do. We'll get back on track by the end of the year, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Well, with that, it's time to end the show. Bye.